Alonzo Tyree Brooks was the kind of person everyone in Gardner, Kansas seemed to know. Born on May 19, 1980, to Maria Ramirez and Billy Brooks Sr., Alonzo was the youngest of 5 children. Growing up in the small-town rhythm of the Midwest, he split his time between fishing with his cousins, joking around with his siblings, and helping his mother cook traditional Mexican dishes in their kitchen. He was soft-spoken, with a warm smile and a deep laugh that made people feel comfortable, no matter where they were from. Alonzo, or Zo as his friends called him, was biracial, his father African-American, his mother Mexican-American. He stood out in his mostly white hometown, but not in a way that bothered him. His friends remember him as fiercely loyal and down-to-earth. His laugh was contagious, and his love of sports, especially football, made him a regular fixture in backyard games and local high school bleachers. He didn't drink much, didn't get into trouble, and worked at a local custodial job while figuring out what his future might look like. But what happened to Alonzo in April of 2004 would raise more than just questions about his future. It would uncover deep divisions in his community, bring the FBI into a rural Kansas town, and reveal a timeline that still doesn't make sense. It was the evening of April 3, 2004, just another spring weekend in Kansas. Alonzo had plans to go to a house party in Cygne, a small town about an hour south of Gardner. He didn't drive, so he hitched a ride with a group of friends, agreeing to split the cost of gas and drinks. The house party was supposed to be just a casual gathering. Young people blowing off steam, music, beer, small-town gossip. But it wasn't just people from Cygne. Some came from other towns. Some came with reputations. Alonzo didn't know most of the party-goers. In fact, he didn't even really know whose house it was. But like many 23-year-olds, he was just out for a good time. He wore his signature black boots, a Raiders cap, and a black t-shirt. Before heading out, he joked with his mom in the kitchen and promised he wouldn't be too late. It was a promise he never came home to keep. The ride to Cygne was uneventful. Alonzo and his friends arrived sometime between 10 o'clock and 10:30 p.m. The house was on the outskirts of town, a white 2-story home surrounded by flat land and gravel roads. Inside, there were about 30 to 40 people, mostly white. Eyewitnesses would later recall that Alonzo stood out, not just because of his race, but because he wasn't a regular, a stranger. Accounts of that night vary widely. Some say Alonzo got into an argument with a local over a spilled drink. Others mention racial slurs being used. A few claim there was a fight, but no one agrees on who threw the first punch, or if punches were thrown at all. What we do know is this. By midnight, the friends Alonzo came with had all left. Each assumed someone else would give him a ride home. No one checked to confirm. No one stayed behind. Alonzo Brooks was left at a party, 47 miles from home, in a town where he knew almost no one. The morning after the party, Alonzo's family expected him to stumble in tired, maybe hungover, maybe ready for his mom's chilaquiles. But he didn't show up. By noon, his mother Maria was calling friends. By 2 p.m., panic was setting in. No one knew where Alonzo was. None of his friends had seen him. And worse, no one had brought him home. It was then that the uncomfortable truth came to light. Alonzo had been left behind, alone, in a town known for its racial tensions, where strangers, especially those who didn't look like everyone else, were noticed. His family drove straight to Cygne. They retraced the route, found the house where the party was held, and began knocking on doors. Maria later described it as walking into a wall of silence. Neighbors didn't want to talk. No one knew anything. The homeowners claimed they hadn't seen Alonzo leave. Law enforcement seemed slow to act, perhaps chalking it up to a young man sleeping it off or taking off on his own, but his family knew better. That night, family and friends formed their own search party. They scoured the area around the house, checked ditches, barns, abandoned sheds. But there was no trace of Alonzo Brooks. No clothing, no signs of injury, no phone, no wallet. For days, the local sheriff's office provided minimal assistance. Some say they didn't want to stir trouble in a close-knit town. Others think it was incompetence. But the result was the same. A Black and Mexican-American man was missing, and no one in power seemed to care. Days turned to weeks. Tips came in, many anonymous. One person said they saw Alonzo walking along a gravel road. Another heard he'd gotten into a fight. A third said he was killed and dumped in a nearby creek. But nothing could be confirmed, and no one would testify. By week 3, federal authorities were called in. The FBI. Their involvement gave the family hope, but even the Bureau faced roadblocks. People weren't talking. Witnesses were scared, or pretending to be. Rumors swirled that locals were protecting someone, that the truth was buried under a culture of silence. Maria Brooks continued to lead searches. Pistol, Alonzo's cousin, was just a teenager at the time, but remembers how the family refused to give up. Volunteers, dogs, helicopters, nothing led to Alonzo. Until the day someone walked into the creek. It was May 1st, 2004. Almost a full month after Alonzo Brooks vanished, his body was finally found. And it wasn't discovered by local law enforcement, or even the FBI. It was his family. That day, the Brooks family organized yet another private search. They were tired of waiting, tired of being told to sit back while authorities, quote, followed leads. They returned to the same area they had searched countless times before, the creek behind the party house in Cygne. And there, lying in plain view on the edge of a creek bed, was Alonzo Brooks. He hadn't been buried. He wasn't hidden under brush or trash. He was there, on the surface, as if someone had just placed him there recently. Whispers in town only grew louder. Some claimed Alonzo had been beaten and hidden. His body kept frozen somewhere before being placed in the creek. Others said he had been threatened at the party, possibly jumped. Still, no one would come forward. No arrests, no charges, no confession. The case went cold. For years. But Alonzo's name never faded. His story was passed around in online forums, podcasts, true crime communities. The pressure to reopen the case kept building, fueled by a haunting question. How could a young man disappear for 27 days, only to be found in a place already searched multiple times? In 2019, the FBI officially reopened the case. And in April 2021, nearly 17 years to the day after Alonzo went missing, they announced what his family had believed all along. His death was no accident. It was a homicide. A second autopsy conducted during the reopened investigation revealed signs of injuries that had not been detected before, consistent with homicide. Details remain sealed to this day, but for the first time, it was official. Someone had killed Alonzo Brooks. Who that someone is remains a mystery. Alonzo Brooks' death wasn't just a tragedy, it became a symbol of how justice moves slowly, if it moves at all, of how a family, fueled by love and persistence, had to do the work others wouldn't, of how silence, deliberate, fearful, or protective, can shield the truth. In the years following the reopening of the case, public awareness surged. Social media lit up with calls for justice. True crime audiences rallied around the Brooks family, demanding answers, demanding accountability. Hashtags trended. News stations revisited the case. And still, no arrests. Why? That's the haunting part. Despite renewed attention, despite federal involvement, the wall of silence that protected those responsible still holds firm. Those who were at that party in Cygne, many are now adults with families of their own. Some likely carry secrets they've buried for years. The FBI believes there are people who know what happened to Alonzo Brooks. In 2021, they even offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. But as of today, no one has stepped forward. Not publicly. The Brooks family, however, refuses to give up. His mother, Maria, continues to speak out. She describes her son as full of love, full of life, a man who deserved better than to be left behind, discarded, and ignored. His cousin Pistol channels his grief into advocacy. And the entire family keeps Alonzo's name alive. Because names matter, because stories matter, because silence is not justice. If you have any information about the death of Alonzo Brooks, contact the FBI or the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. You could be the one who ends this silence. This has been No Ride Home, the mysterious death of Alonzo Brooks, because in a town where no one talks, every echo matters.